Hi everyone. Uh, our today's topic for discussion is subordinate legislation. It is one of the important component of jurisprudence, but the context of study of subordinate legislation that would be different from context to context, subject to subject. In fact, you have already studied that in your administrative law. You might have studied that in your jurisprudence. So, in administrative law, while discussing legislative power of the administrators or administrative authorities, you might have studied the topic. Similarly, while discussing various kinds of law, you might have studied that in jurisprudence. But again, here we will be studying that subordinate legislation or delegated or quasi legislation for this subject also. The primary meaning of the term subordinate legislation or delegated legislation or quasi legislation, that would be the same for the purpose of all these three subjects, that is jurisprudence, administrative law and lawmaking process. But uh, the component or the sub themes to be discussed for this topic, that would be different. So we have to discuss the topic in the context of legislative process. It is not relating to administrative law. It is not relating to that jurisprudence. But here we have to discuss that in the context of the process involving with that delegated legislation. So far as administrative law is concerned, your much discussion that is relating to in which way the delegated legislation that is to be controlled. So, what are the reasons for delegated legislation? What are the various forms of delegated legislation, and in which way the delegated legislation that is to be controlled? So, that would be the main theme or the purpose of the administrative law. But here we will be discussing the topic in the context of the legislative process, in which way that delegated legislation or subordinate legislation will be uh, drafted, or what are the steps or stages to be followed by administrators or local authorities while drafting delegated legislation. Accordingly, in which way that sanctity of subordinate legislation that has been protected under administrative law, so that we will be discussing here. Anyway, in a democracy, in the two in parliamentary democracy, so the lawmaking power, it is vested with legislature, but parliament, it is not possible for parliament to deal with each and every aspect of the legislation. For normally, that law made by the parliamentarians that concentrates on framing of some legislative policy, and uh, that legislation will outline the essential parameters of legislation. The rest of the things, they are to be taken care by executive authorities who are under obligation to execute that particular law. So normally, the administrative and procedural matters will be delegated by the legislature to the executive authorities or local authorities in different forms. There may be various forms of delegated legislation. So, so as to supplement the policy matters of the government or general principles of the government, so the rule making power will be provided to the administrators or executive authorities. So these rules, which are called as delegated legislation or quasi legislation or subordinate legislation, so that governs various or multifarious activities. So in modern time, it is not possible. It is unimaginable without conceiving a particular legal system as complete legal system without delegated legislation or subordinate legislation. Accordingly, the modern statute book is dominated by subordinate legislation. Accordingly, we are here to discuss that subordinate legislation in the context of that drafting process. First let us understand what is the delegated legislation. Then we could move on to that the delegated legislation in the context of lawmaking process. So the delegated legislation or subordinate legislation, in its plain sense, in its uh, what is that simple sense, that indicates lawmaking power of the administrators. That is a very simple definition. Despite some of the scholars, they have analyzed that concept of subordinate legislation. According to Salmond, uh, legislation, I quote, legislation is either supreme or subordinate, whereas the former proceeds from sovereign or supreme power, the latter flows from any authority other than sovereign power, and is therefore dependent for its existence and continuation on superior or supreme authority. So that is delegated legislation according to Salmond. Here we could understand the basis of subordinate legislation and the validity of subordinate legislation and distinction between subordinate legislation and the supreme legislation. In fact, while discussing supreme legislation, I explained the delegated legislation also. So the understanding of subordinate legislation that depends upon supreme legislation, understanding of the supreme legislation, it depends upon subordinate legislation. So to such an extent they are interconnected, interrelated. So this definition of subordinate legislation given by Salmond clearly indicates the source of the subordinate legislation. For supreme legislation, that would be sovereign lawmaking authority, that would be the source. On the other hand, the administrative law or subordinate legislation, it is originated from authority other than sovereign authority or sovereign lawmaking power. So obviously, it is like our parliament, our administrators or administrative authorities or local authorities or the public departments. So therefore, the one more important thing which we could understand from Salmond definition is like dependence, dependent. Therefore, the dependent for its existence and continuation on superior or supreme authority. So the very existence of delegated legislation or authority of the delegated legislation, so that strongly depends upon supreme legislation, because that normally that power will be assigned by the legislature to the administrative authorities. Accordingly, that will be taken care by uh, administrators or administrative authorities. According to E.R. Atre, in the context of legislative drafting, I am referring the explanation of E.R. Atre for the term the subordinate legislation. I quote, the expression subordinate legislation covers a variety of matters and includes inter alia rules, regulations, bylaws, orders, notices issued by the authorities to whom the powers to frame them are delegated. I unquote. So the inclusive definition. So for supreme legislation, uh, like the parliament or sovereign lawmaking authority would be the base for that. But here, the inclusive definition that has been given by E.R. Atre. So, subordinate legislation covers variety of matters uh, and includes the rules, regulations, bylaws, orders, notices issued by the authorities to whom the powers to frame them are delegated. So, that is delegated legislation. Here that indicates inclusive definition of the term delegated legislation. It also indicates the various circumstances. Of course, it is not clearly mentioned here, but impliedly, author has insisted that a variety of matters. So, what is that variety of matters in which the delegated legislative power will be assigned by the legislature, sovereign lawmaking authority to administrator? So, that would be the matter for delegated or subordinate legislation. Normally, some kind of variety of matters, such as commencement of the legislation, supplying details, inclusion, exclusion, suspension, modification, framing of the rules and all, removal of difficulty class. In your administrative law, it is popularly called as Henry class. So, all these variety of matters will be given to the administrator so as to effectively execute that supreme legislation. At the same time, that may restrict certain things. Specifically, it is the characteristic of administrative law or delegated legislation that the essential legislative power will not be given to administrators. Similarly, certain matters, variety of matters such as repealing law, modification uh, of law in certain exceptional circumstances, then retrospective effect of the legislation, Futures Act, offences and penalty clause, financial imposition of the taxes and all. So those things uh, will not be given to legislative, will not be given to administrative authorities. So subjected to that, variety of the matters will be assigned to that authorities. So that is called delegated legislation. So the nomenclature given for a particular delegated legislation in terms of rules, regulations, bylaws. So that depends upon terminology used by the interpretation of that particular country. Accordingly, that would be interpreted. So that is subordinate legislation. Anyway, subordinate legislation is in its simple sense the law made by administrators or administrative authorities. So that is subordinate legislation within the purview of the power assigned under particular legislation. Uh, of course, certain things like the pressure on the if you look into the literature relating to administrative law, so there we come across various reasons for the development of administrative law. It may be because of pressure on the parliament. It may be because of filling the gaps in the existing, filling the details of the legislation. So flexibility, technicality, emergency. So these are all the reasons for which that delegated legislation has assumed a significant place under legal system. So, what are the various forms of subordinate legislation? So far I explained that introductory part, then the meaning of subordinate legislation, then the various reasons for the subordinate legislation. You people could explain that, which, like in terms of parliament, uh, pressure on parliament, or technicality, flexibility, emergency. So those things easily you could explain. Uh, Now let us take up important aspect of the topic, that is forms of subordinate legislation. So which are those various forms of subordinate legislation normally we come across? So that we have to look into here. Anyway, let us look into those things. Which are those various forms of subordinate legislation, so that we could properly understand the intricacies associated with the lawmaking power of the administrators, or the process involving with that uh, uh, what is that framing of subordinate legislation. After understanding that meaning of subordinate legislation, now let us move on to the forms of subordinate legislation. Which are those general forms we come across so far as that delegated legislation is concerned? So that we have to look into here. So the forms of subordinate legislation or delegated legislation normally depends upon supreme legislation, under which that particular power is assigned to administrators or administrative authority. So that principal act normally specifies a particular form of the subordinate legislation. So there is no such kind of standards or standard rules relating to what should be the nomenclature or nature of that particular form of subordinate legislation that is to be used in that uh, delegated legislation. So these forms are often used indiscriminately and interchangeably, but following are the normal practices, following are the normal nomenclature used for subordinate legislation. So the first one, that is rules. So normally there would be rule making power of uh, government, rule making power of if any authority constituted under that particular act. For example, it is not only that power of the government to make uh, subordinate legislation or delegated legislation. So if there is a particular authority, if the particular act constitutes a particular what is that institutional mechanism, so even that authorities will be given that power. Under KSLU Act, Karnataka State Law University Act, Karnataka State Law University is authorized to make such kind of rules. Uh, Even if you look into that National Legal Services Authority Act, rule making power is given for central, state, that national legal services authority, state legal services authority. So like that. So the first form of delegated legislation or subordinate legislation, that is rules. So these are all the rules are the procedural matters relating to a particular administrative authority. So these are the rules for administrative machinery, uh, such as the procedure to be followed by the particular authority so as to enforce that legislation. So that is rules. For example, water prevention and control of pollution rules. Uh, so they are framed under Water Act. So like that, under by using that, so normally the supreme legislation may authorize state or administrative authorities to go for such kind of subordinate legislation. Then regulations. So normally a regulation give a complete regime or a set of procedure in respect of several matters, uh, which the parent act is supposed to govern. For example, we have the Central Secretariat Service Assistance Grade Regulation 1974. So these are the regulations framed under Central Civil Services Act. So, like that, there may be regulations, then orders, notification, notices. So, these are the terms often used interchangeably. So, many times the regulation assume the character of independent set of rules. So, there is no such kind of minute or what is that uh, uh, what is that visible difference between these things. So not normally notification is employed or adopted by the administrative authority to notify uh, bringing into a particular act into force, or notifying the appointment an officer or board or commission or any other authority for that matter. So the form of an order is used for notifying an action taken by the government. So that is the order. Uh, the rule, on the other hand, uh, what is that? The notices, uh, they are supplementary to these things. That is orders, notification. Sorry, what is that? Mm, Notification and uh, orders. So they are supplemented through these notices. So the fourth category, that is bylaws. So bylaws are a kind of uh, internal rules relating to particular authority. So these bylaws are instrument, or these bylaws are considered as the integral part of that particular institution, so as to regulate the affairs of the particular institution. So they are different from rules or regulations, but they are termed as bylaws so as to easily identify them from the rules and regulations frame government, or to distinguish them from some other uh, what is the delegated legislation. So the last one, that is scheme. So many times the subordinate legislation is termed as a scheme to denote handling of the subject matter as an independent scheme. For example, victim compensation scheme. Uh, so like that, there would be some scheme so as to give effect to the particular legislation. So that is called scheme. Anyway, rules, regulations, orders, notifications, notices, bylaws, scheme. So these are the various forms of delegated legislation. So after this, what we have to understand here is the normal form of delegated legislation, or purposes of delegated legislation. So far, I have explained that introduction, meaning of delegated legislation, a reason for delegated legislation, then the various forms of delegated legislation. Now, in the context of legislative drafting, we have to understand the purposes of delegated legislation. Uh, Normally, according to Atre, I am referring to Atre. So the concept called subordinate legislation or delegated legislation is used or employed so as to achieve various or diverse purposes. He has explained these things. So the first thing, that is commencement of the act. So normally the power will be assigned to the executive authority, so relating to commencement of the act. For example, if we look into that Food Standards and Security Act, variety or various dates were fixed by the central government for various provisions. Accordingly, that act was executed. So several acts authorize the government to appoint a date with effect from uh, the particular date on which that particular act should come to picture. So The purpose of this class is like uh, the parliamentarians, they may not in a position to predict or to take care of certain developments relating to feasibility of implementation of that particular legislation under such circumstances that will be given to administrators or particularly that government. So the second form of delegated legislation, that is extension of or application of the acts. So like what extent that law that is to be uh, applied, like whether that is to be applied for particular area or whether that is to be applied for particular subject matter. So those things can be assigned to administrators, even duration of the time. So uh, that is to be taken care by administrators. So such kind of uh, duration of the time, territorial application, subject matter application, so those things will be assigned to administrators. Then the temporary extension of the act. So the act of temporary nature, having fixed tenure, sometimes may contain provision uh, enabling government to extend the life or part of that particular legislation for further period. So that is another form of legislation, but that is to be necessarily, that should be clear, that should be authorized by the parliamentarian in clear words. Under such circumstances only there would be temporary extension of the application of that enactment. Then extension of acts to objects not originally covered. In certain circumstances, it may not possible for parliamentarians to extend or to include or cover certain objects uh, in that original act. So under such circumstances, the power will be given to the executive authority to or state to include those things. For example, that Wild Birds and Animals Protection Act 1911 empowers central government to extend the act to birds and animals other than those mentioned in enacting legislation. So that is the example for that. Then dispensing and suspending of the acts. So many acts may provide an exception clause empowering executive to make some exception from all or any provisions of act in particular case or class of cases. For example, Section 9 of the Cinematograph Act 1952, it says like the central government may exempt by order in writing the exhibition of any film subject to such conditions as it may impose. So that is a exemption clause. Uh, then the next one would be delegation of power to alter the act. So sometimes parliamentarians may authorize the government or administrative authority to alter that particular piece of legislation. So normally that will be done by making some modification, making some amendments. So normally that modification would be in terms of adoption, alteration, restrictions, additions. So these are all considered as modification of the legislation. If you look into various acts like income tax act and such other legislation, we come across such kind of modification carried out by the government. In fact, it is executive authority. So even in certain circumstances, if it is required, so the modification can, like amendments, so all alteration not mentioned as modification, so they are called as amendments. So In fact, that is to be necessarily authorized by the legislatures, then only that can be done by the executive authority. Then the delegation of legislative power to impose tax. As you people have studied in your administrative law, the power of the parliament, the power of the administrative authority to uh, impose a tax, that is quite restricted in nature. So the power of the government to impose tax, so it is strictly restricted. It is the domain of the parliament. Parliament uh, has to do that, has to take care of that. But here we have to distinguish that tax and fee collected by the government. So that the tax, that is a financial burden imposed on individual for the public purpose. On the other hand, that fee, so that is the payment collected by the state in respect of services performed by it. So the states may that power, it is vested with the government, but taxing power, that should not be delegated to uh, administrative authorities. So then the delegation of power of the supplementary legislation. So that is another form of delegated legislation. Under this heading, the executive authority will be authorized to make some rules or regulations or whatever the form of delegated or subordinate legislation it is, to elaborate or supplement or to to work out the details of the principles laid down in that particular piece of legislation. Uh, Accordingly, according to the circumstances, according to the requirement, so the things might be supplemented by the executive authority. Uh, Now we are witnessing such kind of things. Our whatever the things done by central government, uh, so as to um, deal with that corona. So all these things, they have been taken care by virtue of National Disaster Management Act. All these things, they are supplemented in terms of notification guidelines. So all these things, they are supplemented to that National Disaster Natural Disaster Management Act. Then the delegation of the power to uh, prescribe punishment, whether that power can be assigned to uh, administrative authority. So power to prescribe punishment, whether that can be provided, or are there any such kind of subordinate legislation. So in India, the common practice is to delegate such kind of power uh, to the administrators by prescribing rules necessary for such kind of punishment. It This power is delegated even under certain statutes which provide for framing rules, setting of only administrative machinery. But the thing is that proper safeguard, that is to be provided by that particular piece of subordinate legislation, because the very liberty of the individual, so that would be at stake in case of delegated legislation. So for that reason, adequate safeguard, that is to be provided by the parliamentarians or legislature while assigning such kind of power. Normally, in delegated legislation or subordinate legislation regarding prescribing punishment, normally we come across these two principles. The first principle is the maximum punishment that would be prescribed by the parliamentarians or lawmaker themselves. Then the second thing is if the power to impose punishment is delegated to particular authority other than the state government or central government, so that power to be exercised by that administrative authority subjected to the previous sanction of the government, like central government and state government. Accordingly, the punishment, delegated legislation or subordinate legislation to impose punishment, normally will be given to either central government or state government, or some local authority, or subordinate legislation. But these two principles play vital role while delegating power to the administrative authorities. Then the next one would be relating to financial obligation. In fact, we already discussed that they are similar to that power of the uh, administrative authorities or state government to impose taxes. So it is similar, and that would be overlapping. Anyway, these are all the various uh, what is that form of delegated legislation normally we come across, like commencement of the act, extension and application of the act, temporary extension of the act, dispensing and suspending the acts, then the power to alter the act, delegated the legislative power to impose tax, delegation of power to supplement legislation, delegation of power to impose punishment. So these are all the various forms of delegated legislation. That is another dimension of the delegated legislation. Uh, the important thing is uh, whether essential legislative functions can be delegated to administrative authorities. So that we have to look into here. So uh, so as to understand the status of essential legislative power and its delegation to administrative authority, first we have to understand what is the delegated essential legislative function. uh, you know like it is very difficult to distinguish that subordinate legislation and supreme legislation, as they are similar, or the very purpose of these two category of the legislations is to achieve some intended objectives. But on the basis of the cases decided by various courts, so certain fundamental principles they have been the contemplated by the courts, so as to figure out or point out the essential legislative function. So the essential legislative functions are: the first one is declaring what is what the law shall be in relation to a particular territory or locality. So that is the essential legislative function. Extending duration or operation of act beyond period mentioned in the act itself. So that is also a legislative essential legislative function. However, in certain circumstances that might be delegated, as I mentioned earlier, to the executive authority. The thing is, with the adequate guidelines, or with adequate what is that uh, mechanism, that power will be assigned to administrative authority, repealing or amending the law. So substantially amending law, so it is the domain of the parliamentarians. Modifying any existing or future laws in any essential future, so that is also power of the parliament. Power to tax, power to levy fee, power to create offences, power to allow exceptions or exemptions, expenditure from public revenues, uh, then the matters affecting jurisdiction of the courts, right to appeal, provisions affecting interest or rights in properties. These are all the things which are considered as essential legislative functions. So these functions cannot be assigned to that administrative authorities or the state. So in such a way that is to be assigned, that is to be followed in a particular system. Now the important thing is what is that procedure relating to uh, controlling such kind of subordinate legislation. In your administrative law, you have studied that in the context of uh, what is that subordinate legislation, control over subordinate legislation. That is explained under administrative law under these two headings, that is parliamentary control and judicial control. So you have to study both the judicial control and parliamentary control so as to understand the control of delegated legislation. Uh, you know, the very uh, the concept called subordinate legislation. So in that too, during this COVID-19 period, it is quite controversial aspect for the reason that whether whatever the subordinate legislation made by central government in terms of guidelines, notice, notifications, so many notifications, many guidelines, many things they have been issued by central government. Once you visit that Ministry of Home Affairs, you will be understanding what kind of that power that has been exercised by the central government. In fact, that Home Ministry, it is part of executive authority, so they are not supposed to what is that exercise legislative power, but by virtue of that emergency kind situation, they have exercised this power. But the very power of the uh, parliament, or the very principle called a democratic value, so it is at stake, it is at the cost of corona. Is it fair uh, on the part of the central government uh, to continue with such kind of enormous power? So they have created situation in such a way that like emergency like situation, it is created by central government by virtue of this delegated legislation, by virtue of this subordinate legislation. So in which way, in fact, all these things, because whatever the actions taken by the central government in terms of the subordinate legislation, so they are like it is for it is relating to the layman of the country, it is relating to citizens of this country. So is it fair on the part of central government to completely ignore the democratic institution called parliament, or is it fair on the part of central government merely because of emergency like situation continuing with such kind of subordinate legislation? They could have, see, I read one article in the TPW, so wherein the very power of the central government, so that has been criticized by the author, saying that they could have called that session, they could have discussed something, and they could have brought some kind of law required for this country. Of course, the complete legal system that indicates a minimum number of legislation, but it doesn't mean that if the particular circumstances require such kind of legislation, that should be ignored by that system merely because of bulky laws or volume of the legislations. So that has been done by central government. Anyway, in which way, so as to test our contemporary system, so we have to look into these things. In which way that mechanism that has been ensured under Indian legal system so as to control this delegated legislation. So let us look into that.